listeners, to Mindful Living with your host, Sana, where we explore pathways to self discovery, healing, and personal development, empowerment. And today I'm honored to welcome a truly inspiring guest with us, Wendy Bjork. Now, let me share a bit about Wendy with all of you. She's an international best selling author, nationally syndicated columnist, and the founder of heartsofwellness.com. Well, listeners, she has been navigating life with multiple sclerosis for over 3 decades and has made it her mission to empower women on their healing journey. With a deep passion for holistic wellness, Wendy integrates Vedic astrology, numerology, Reiki, and crystals into her unique approach to self advocacy, healing, and empowerment. So, I encourage you, all of you, to join us in this conversation as we uncover her incredible story and explore how she helped others find their path to wellness. So, with that, Wendy, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us.
Oh, thank you, Sana. I appreciate being here. I think we have a lot in common and a lot of information to help other people find their truth.
Absolutely. So, Wendy, talking about your personal journey, you have been living with multiple sclerosis since you were 15. So can you take us back to the moment, when it all started, and then you realized that traditional medical approach wasn't giving you the full picture, and what inspired to be you, which you are today?
Yes. First, I come from, and as we all do as women, we come from a long line of women, our grandmothers, who just didn't have the tools, they
Mhm.
didn't have the platforms, they didn't have any support for talking about what they were dealing with. And my grandmother was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when she was in her early 30s, had three little kids. This is in the 1950s. And I'm sure the doctors didn't listen to her, just, shrugged her off. And she spent her life in a chair looking out the window and just in a lot of pain. And when I started having my symptoms, she had already passed. She passed when I was 13. And my symptoms were activated by heat. So by taking a simple bath in the tub, my legs would feel like pasta when I got out. And just this kept happening and happening. And I was a runner in school. I was on the track teams. I lifted weights. And I thought, "Oh, what is wrong with me?" And I would mention it to my doctor at my annual sports visit. And he would just say I was imagining it or being dramatic and
Mhm.
wouldn't think anything of it. And it just would keep happening and happening. And finally, 6 years later, after they did a spinal tap, and I don't know how many neurologists I saw, but they
Mhm.
discovered it was multiple sclerosis after all of those years.
Oh.
And my first thought was, I cannot be stuck in a chair all day. I immediately went back to my grandmother's life and I thought, I can't do that.
Mhm.
I'm 22 years old. I need to live my life.
Well, I mean, yeah, it must have been very heartbreaking, but I think we all come with a free will, and we have the full right to decide what to do, and it's really encouraging of you that you realize that the traditional medical approach isn't the one which can help you take control. So I think it must have been such a liberating experience for you, Wendy. So, what were some of the first shifts you made that you think had the biggest impact on your healing journey?
Um, when I was first diagnosed, I decided I was not accepting the diagnosis, that I was going to just ignore it and live my life, which didn't really help me because I call them MS whammies, would come in. And my doctor would immediately want to do infusions of steroids to help settle my system down. And I did that a few times. And in the meantime, I had two little boys by then. And I, you know, day after day, and the stress of life, the stress of working, the stress of trying to be super mom, it just kept making me feel worse and worse and worse. And every time I'd see my neurologist, he would just have more high powered medicine to mask those symptoms. And I finally realized I
Mhm.
wasn't getting any better. And his only advice was that I was going to end up in a wheelchair, which that doesn't work when you have two little kids running around. And I just had a moment of I need to figure out for myself how to fix myself because they're not they don't have the cure. They can fix a broken arm or a broken leg, but they don't have the training or the knowledge to help chronic conditions in the US. And I really just started reading about what causes inflammation in our body and what's making me, stay up all night because I wasn't sleeping. And I just started going that route of reading about inflammation and realizing that everything that our skin touches affects our system. And in the US, there is zero regulation almost on what they put in our products, whether it's our laundry, our cleaning, our skincare products, the kids' products. We think because it's on the store shelf that it's perfectly fine and just people keep using it. And I was the same way until I realized how many different chemicals affect us and aggravate our symptoms. And it was just a big rabbit hole I went down for several years.
In fact, tap water sometimes, the drinking
Mhm.
water, it can also affect our skin, hair, our body system. So I can totally relate with that feeling, which kind of creeps in, and as you
Mhm.
rightly mentioned about it, that you kind of got into that rabbit hole.
Yeah, and there's just so much information and just it took me years to figure it all out actually. And once I saw that, I mean, in our country since World War II, there's
Mm.
been about 80,000 synthetic chemicals created. And that's in all of our products. And people think they need to have everything smelling good, but it's all fake. It's all synthetic. It's just products made in a lab. And our body doesn't know what to do with those molecules. And that's what's triggering all the inflammation and all the autoimmune conditions. And realizing, I loved candles and having candles burning, and we all want our house to smell nice, but that's all just tripping us up and causing more problems for us and our families. And once I realized that, it just, I couldn't go back to doing those things.
Mm. Well, so you mentioned about MS, which stands for mindset. So, what advice would you give to someone struggling to take that first step toward self advocacy?
hmm the first step I would advise is start tracking your symptoms. Have a journal or a notebook, or I've even created one because I couldn't find one that worked for me. But just start, if you notice something, write it down, even if maybe it doesn't have to do with MS, but so you can show your doctor because I don't know about anybody else, but when I get there, my mind goes blank because you're just stressed about getting into the appointment on time, and you only have 20 minutes with the doctor. So just keeping track so that you can ask the questions that you were thinking of.
Mm, great, makes sense. And it's so powerful to hear how much mindset influences physical health.
Mhm.
Uh, Also, another aspect of your work, so you incorporate Vedic astrology and numerology into your work. So, how do these ancient sciences play a role in helping women with, you know, m- MS, as in multiple sclerosis, or other chronic conditions?
Mhm. Until I realized how much knowledge is stored in a normal deck of cards, I mean, it was incredible and how our ancestors held this information for us. And now I can see in working with people, according to the day they're born, what their energy is, what their sun sign energy tells about them. And it's so accurate. I just love working that way and love helping people that way to bring out their best self. Whatever they want to change in their life, whatever they need to release, whether, they're working on something personally or have a chronic condition that they're navigating. It's so important to know your energy so that you can do the things that you're meant to do here.
Hmm. That's really fascinating. So, have you seen any specific patterns, Wendy, in astrology or numerology that tend to show up in people dealing with chronic illness?
I think when we're told we have a chronic condition or chronic illness, it's easy to identify it. Like that becomes your label. And that's my other advice is don't allow somebody to tell you what your truth is. Don't allow them to label you because our mind will dwell on that and ruminate on that and over and over. And so feeding our mind positive things, talking nice to ourselves, saying nice things to ourselves when we look in the mirror is really important. And that is, I know it's a hard step to take, but just do a little bit at a time and a little bit of all of this in what a little time. So you're not overwhelmed and want to just quit and give up.
Mm. That's really empowering, Wendy. Really, really empowering. Okay. Also, touching down upon, Reiki and crystals, they're often dismissed as woo woo by skeptics. So, what would you say to someone who is curious, but maybe they are hesitant to try these modalities as well?
I was the same way. I thought Reiki was something, it sounded like something that would come down from a spaceship and people would do to you. But one of my friends that lives in the UK has been practicing it for years. She was trained as an opera singer and failed her final exam when she was 19 and declared she would never sing again. And about 20 years later, she had the idea that she could use her voice with her Reiki healing, and she wanted to experiment with me by video to see if it worked, like for a distance healing, because she was just doing it in person. And while we were on video in our session, all of a sudden she said, she had somebody that wanted to speak. And Go ahead, because I mean, I'm here, we're working together. And it was her guides, it was her angel team that was coming through to tell me that I needed to share my story. I needed to share all the work that I've done for myself and my family to help other people navigate these conditions that are just becoming more and more prevalent because it's about keeping ourselves healthy and about helping each other stay healthy. And so, of course, my reaction, because I was hiding the MS for my entire life, was there's no way I'm doing that. I've been hiding it for this long. I'm not going to talk about it now. And she just kept insisting, week after week that I need to do this. And I finally did a video and I called it Unmasking, which this was before COVID, so it's kind of ironic. But I did a video and the people that saw it live in my town and wanted to know like what was wrong with me because when I'm out in public, I usually wear some lip gloss and, try to look decent. Not like I just, I don't days that I don't feel good, I don't go out. So what people see is always the good side, and then they assume that's how you always look and feel, which guess that's a downside of masking how we feel in the end.
Wow, inspiring. And n- when we talk about the traditional medical approach, um, or the medicines, it's all about masking symptoms or very short term solutions. I mean, it will give you relief, but that's just suppressing the symptoms, and that kind of creates a vicious circle on
Mhm,
getting kind of addicted to medicines.
mhm.
You strongly advocate for addressing the root causes rather than just masking symptoms. So, what are some of the biggest lies about multiple sclerosis or and chronic illnesses that you believe need to be dismantled?
I think the first one is that they are contagious. I still see this when people are in, the small groups online. They ask if this is contagious, but I think it's genetic, even though the doctors say it's not genetic, because I think we all contain these DNA cells just waiting to be activated.
True.
Um, I think that's a big symptom or a big, falsehood. I think another one is that everybody's going to end up in a wheelchair. Even though my doctor kept saying I was headed that way, I
Mhm.
think we can take matters into our own hands and decide to do things for ourselves, even working alongside the doctor. They
Right.
might tell you it's not going to work, but until you do it and try it, you just don't know.
True. True. And the point of that point you made, that most of the people think, many people still think that um, these chronic illnesses, they are contagious. um, and um, I'll give an example from my life. So I have been suffering. I mean, right now it's not very much dominant, but I had psoriasis, uh,
Mm,
teenage years. Um,
mhm,
and at that time, this is very personal, but I would love to share this. So, my boyfriend at that time, he used to make remarks that I don't want to use anything that you touched or anything that comes in contact with your skin because it's
mm.
contagious. And that kind of made me feel so bad to the core.
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm,
it was really, really, really stressing me out. And that stress itself, that bad feeling kind of, it does results in psoriasis kind of controlling you. Uh,
mhm,
but I think it's all about the mindset and the kind of community you live in, the kind of people you interact with, because people who are supportive, who actually genuinely think good for you, I don't think they'll be so much judging you based on your
mhm,
illnesses, chronic illnesses. So yeah,
mhm.
I mean, you're very much right, very much right. This is a huge misconception that needs to be dismantled.
Yes. And then back to the crystals, when you mentioned that being, people say they're woo woo.
Yeah.
I mean, you just go outside, there are rocks in the soil everywhere. And when I was a little kid, I loved picking up pretty rocks. So I've always been interested in rocks and crystals. And I think they also are encoded with knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think they find us. I mean, we see something pretty. What I might think pretty, you might not think is pretty. And I take it home. And maybe it's meant for me to have in my pocket or have on my desk. And I just think it's so cool how it's becoming more and more normal. I mean, there's crystal shops all over the place now where it used to be, like you said, everybody said it's woo woo. And I don't even acknowledge that word anymore because I just think everything is happening so fast right now that there's so much uncovering happening of knowledge of ancient wisdom.
True. That's true. True. And also, before we wrap up, Wendy, your work helping is all about helping women reclaim their power. You have created an entire wellness platform around helping others. So, if
Mhm.
you could just give one piece of advice to someone newly diagnosed with MS or any other chronic illness, what would it be?
My advice is do not Google the symptoms because you are a dynamic person. You are not going to have the same experience that somebody else has because we are all created differently. We all experience things differently. So stay off of Google.
Lovely. That's so empowering and inspiring. Thank you, Wendy. And of course, if our listeners would love to connect with you and explore more about your wellness platform, heartsofwellness.com, how they can do that.
Sure, there's different sections on the heartsofwellness.com website. There is my free community for people that are navigating MS holistically. There's links to my free workbooks, my free ebooks. And then I also have a journal, like I mentioned, that I created for when you're navigating any type of illness because it has pages for your questions for your doctor. It has pages for your goals, pages for your gratitude. And I just believe gratitude is another key to keeping our mindset clean and healthy. So just being aware of what we're thinking, what we're doing is so, so important.
Absolutely right. Great. We'll have the details mentioned in the show notes. And Wendy, this conversation has been so enlightening and personally such a heartful conversation for me as well.
Mhm.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your journey, your passion for guiding others towards self advocacy and healing. And I think your story is truly a testament to resilience and transformation. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And to all of my listeners, remember that your journey to wellness is unique to you, as Wendy rightly said. So trust yourself, explore different paths, and find what resonates with your soul. Until next time, keep living mindfully.